Dear, oh dear. Wait. Dear, oh dear. I wonder if anybody can see me now. Well, we just pop back on, folks, as usual. That's about all we can do. We get kicked like that. So I'll hopefully wait a wee second and see if some of you can join me. Uh, mm, Smoke them if you got them, as they say. I'll give you, hopefully, we'll get a few people back in. Yeah, what a time for a broadcast to drop. That was a bit of a bummer. So I hope you can see me and hear me again, folks. If anybody's just arriving, we'll give it a wee minute or two for people to jump back. And there's Joseph saying all good. Sorry about that, Joseph. It's starting to become a regular thing, isn't it, with YouTube? I don't. We've done quite a few live broadcasts, I suppose. There's Brad saying good morning, morning all. Hi, Brad. We've just got kicked again, and I suppose I was reading something right in the middle of it. I think so. It gives us a good place to start again. But we'll give hopefully a few people a few seconds to come back in. But it isn't. It's getting to be a wee bit hateful. Excuse me. I'm just going to close this wee door here a second. You know, but apologies. But yeah, we were just somebody just asked me a wee bit about recommending other Frank Herbert books, and I was saying that I there's some that I can't recommend because I haven't read them fully. Which would I haven't read the Jesus Incident, the Ascension Factor, and the Lazarus Effect. I've had a skim through them, but not read them. And that's the books that Frank wrote with Bill Ransom. Was I think completed posthumously. I think, but well, I think Frank had finished all his bits when he died, and Bill tidied it up. I think so. But we were saying that the Dragon in the Sea. Not to worry, Brad. Brad's just saying I missed the first part. Whenever we do these things, if the broadcast splits, I'll put both of them up and just call the first one part one, the second one part two. Um, yeah, it's so the Dragon in the Sea. I highly recommend. Um, okay, but basically, I was saying that in terms of his first three books, if you like, uh, Frank Herbert. There we go. Dragon in the Seas, number one. Dune's number two, and then we get this, the Green Trail, and this is not great. It's not good at all. Um, and I think we read the first paragraph of it there, didn't we? It's a bit crap, I have to say. There are a couple I think that aren't too bad, but I'm not. And there's the other one that I'd kind of need to read again would be what would be the one that would be of real interest, I suppose. Let me just have a wee look here. What have we got? Right. God Makers, Heaven Makers. I don't think they're all here actually. We've got there's all sorts. The Dasari Experiment, God Makers, the Heaven Makers, Whipping Star, Direct Descent, Eyes of Heisenberg, Green Brain, Santa Rosa Barrier, Hellstrom Hive. The book I'm thinking of is not there. I do have it. Let me see. What is the book I'm thinking of? Um, Anyway, the Dragon in the Sea. I've got an annotated one here. I've written all over it, and I was going to actually write a paper on this one at one point. Is an exceptionally good psychological thriller, really good submarine. But the other one that I would go with is this. It's the White Plague, and I think where we got cut off, folks. I think I was just reading the blurb on the back just to explain the book. I'll just do it again, sure. A car bomb explodes on a crowded Dublin street, and an American scientist whose wife and children are killed plots a revenge so total that it staggers the imagination. Molecular biologist Joe Rowe O'Neill unleashes a synthesized plague that kills only women. Unstoppable, selective, and invariably fatal, it spells the doom of all mankind. So yeah, I've jokingly called this a book that's given me a lot of ideas over the years, as a person who's not a fan of the North, all most Irish people. Um, and again, there's wee aspects to Herbert's character, and we've talked about Irish mythology within the Dune series. This is a book that you'll see Herbert's interest in Irish mythology, the Irish question, I suppose, all sorts of things. So the epigraphs in this book, for example. Oh, I'll tell you what. Just to give you a wee sense of it, the first chapter, much the epigraph: "May the hearthstone of hell be his bed rest forever." Old Irish curse. This, hmm. So there's aspects about, I suppose, there was the Irish brain surgeon. Pause for laughter. Jokes about, British music hall routine. It gives you an idea into, I suppose, Irishness maybe from a second generation, third generation Americans' point of view. Um, and yeah, there's some Irish mythology in the first, and the dragon in the sea as well. The submarine's called the Fenian Ram, for example, which is a nod to a real submarine, by the way, as well. But just to give you, so the precede in this is, here you go. It's a sort of a, yeah. Oh no, no. Actually, I won't read that. I'm giving a wee bit away. It's because Herbert does that with his stories a wee bit anyway. Um, but it is an interesting story, and it's an idea that's sort of been mucked around with a couple of times. So arguably, it's a revenge book. But yeah, I think for those who take those like that kind of reading, and I suppose I think a few people have run with this idea a couple of times, but I would recommend that one as a good read. And as I said, it's one that I wouldn't want to comment too much on at the minute, just because of memory. But it's definitely on my reread list. And if I tend not to reread rubbish books, so the Green Brain is not on my reread list at all. I will not be reading the Green Brain ever again. I don't care how much anybody pays me; it won't happen. Um, at the same time, when you read books like that, Dragon in the Sea, there's some lovely covers for it, by the way. A lot of the old ones are quite nice, but you should be able to pick it up secondhand quite easily. Um, and as I said, it's a book that, if you're a Frank Herbert fan, it goes under his. I think it goes under a lot of people's radar, um, and I suppose it works on another level. That there's a body of science fiction that's invested in submarines, shall we say, including things like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Neville Shoots on the Beach, stuff like that. So there's a little cadre of science fiction that it belongs with. It's very much a Cold War psycho thriller, I'd argue. But it's really good, by the way. When I say I recommend a book, yeah, that's a good book. The Dragon in the Sea is a cracker. It's the tension that's really good in it, and the whole idea. Frank's preferred title for that book is Under Pressure, and it builds pressure, and he does it really well. There's no chapter breaks. There's no breaks at all in the book, and it's written that way deliberately, I think. And it's not a long read, but I read it going, wow, this is really good. I really really enjoyed it, and I'm not into too many of sort of war books and stuff like that or these things, but I remember reading. I'd read The Hunt for Red October a long time ago, and do like those kind of books that the submarine books actually are very similar to, I suppose, starships and things like that. But he runs with the idea that it's a hermetically sealed environment, moving through, for these men, and it exists in an environment that outside is immediately fatal to them. But after there's one book, there's a book missing from up there that should be there, and it's probably about there somewhere. And for the life of me, I can't remember which one it is. And it's the one that I would recommend, I suppose, and getting to understand Frank a wee bit, I suppose. But a lot of his stuff is kind of, you know, his writing isn't always tip top. And as I said, the thing about understanding Frank, I suppose, is there's a cluster of these stories. But if you look at the third episode in the June Piled Higher and Deeper, there's a bit of a literary biography in there of him. It runs through all his novel publications, but you'll see that the bulk of them, outside of the June stories, appear as short stories first, and then they get published in magazines, and then they end up in a novel form. And so that Green Brain's a good example. It was the Green Slaves, then becomes the Green Brain. Very little difference. But Frank's not great at working towards. Frank's shorter works aren't that as good, I think. There is a real difference with. There's our noodles. There is a real difference with the Dragon in the Sea, and I'm not too sure why, but it's possible, and I think it's the case that I don't think it went for magazine publication first. And it's a proper attempt at a proper book, if you see what I mean. But I think it's really good, and arguably, in terms of what it is, it's a very different book from Dune. But there's an awful lot that's in the Dragon in the Sea. If you know Dune well, and particularly if you've just read the first Dune book, just the first one, then you would pick up all sorts of stuff in the Dragon in the Sea. And I argue, no pun intended, it's you could say it's almost a dry run for a lot of the ideas in Dune, almost a wet run if you like, and particularly the ideas he gets from the about deserts, um, and the ideas of fluid dynamics, this kind of thing. A lot of that's in that book, but the White Plague is a pretty good book, I think. I think the other one. I think the other one I went for there was Hellstrom's Hive. Possibly Whipping Star again. These are all a bit sort of shoddy in my memory, guys. So at a certain point, if I've read a book, you know, books that blow my mind tend to go, wow, that blew my mind straight away. A lot of books that were quite good. You know how you look back on a book. And it's always just did I enjoy it, or did I have a sense that I enjoyed it? So it's usually yes, with me anyway, because I do like a good science fiction romp. And contrary to what I was maybe saying about the Green Brain, I actually I have a whole bunch of books that are like that kind of, like that kind of pulpy era. They're not brilliantly written. They're almost boys' own adventure stories, and some of them are absolutely fantastic. And they're absolutely, again, why put them down? Just not everything is gold, if you know what I mean. But there's an awful lot of shiny stuff underneath. So yeah, yeah, I don't know. I said the main interest I think that's sustained with Frank is the Dune series, but the Dragon in the Sea and the White Plague are the two that stand out for me. And the White Plague in particular, we're talking about mythology and stuff like this, and he's writing it around the same time as the God Emperor of Dune, I think. And well, one of the wee jokes I always make about when we're looking at our own cultures and stuff is that there aren't too many cultures. I hope that's a wee bit better. I'm not too sure how the sound was. There aren't too many cultures in human history that worship worms. If you see what I mean. And Ireland happens to be one of them, particularly up here in the north. There's the old Crom Croch is the serpent god up here, sort of a worm in that sense, Pardon me. So there you go. So the other wee thing we were just mentioning, I think, before we got cut off, I think, was we were just having a wee chat about having a look at reviewing some films and bringing some films from science fiction that you might not be too familiar with, possibly. Certainly for a new audience, if we have such a thing. But we're going to have a wee look at, and then sort of, I think that would be quite a quick and easy way of producing a bit more stuff on the station in terms of proper videos. So we're going to have a wee nosy at Alphaville. Going to sit and watch them with the wife, actually. And one of my favorites is Francois Truffaut's version of Fahrenheit 451, folks, with the wonderful Oscar Werner and, of course, Julie Christie. And What If You Had No Right to Read? What's one of the best things about this is that there's no words in the film and there's no titles, etc. This kind of thing. So there's an immersion in the idea of the book by the director, and it looks terrible in terms of special effects these days. These guys on wires and stuff, but which is a real shame. But if you don't mind bad special effects, they probably looked pretty fantastic back then. A wonderful, wonderful film. How is the technical issue you were having with your neighbour's phone? Says Brad. It's all right. It's been happening quite a bit, Brad, to be honest with you. But essentially, it's they've got a massive CB aerial on their house, and it goes to the height of the house, and they've put on one on their car. Um, so the basically what it is that we're picking up their phone calls. We figured we ought to talk to them about it anyway, just to let them know we can hear one side of the phone call conversation. Just next to me, here's my microphone, and I've got it on one of those long mechanical spring arms, etc. But it's probably got something to do with essentially me probably creating a kind of basic antenna in here. But I use rather old stereo speakers for my computer, and I run them through a really old computer subwoofer. Um, and they have all of that wiring, etc. Whatever, we're picking them up very, very easily, and that's what it is. But no, we just had a chat with them about it and let them know. So it's one of those things where it's just going to happen. It's just sometimes it's just low in the background, but occasionally, I think when they're in their car, which is just down below us, then we're picking it up quite loudly. Mm. But we get all sorts of noise here anyway. It's not a quiet place that we live in, you know. So, but yeah, but hopefully, yeah, it's not coming in too bad. I think it's given them pause for thought. I would imagine if you're well, the way I put it was with we're listening to your your phone calls, not that we want to, but also that we're broadcasting them around the world, and you might want to know that your phone calls aren't private, you know. So it's just one of those things, I suppose. And the other thing, I suppose, just to let you know, guys, is just again we're trying to do a few different things here. Is that we thought a wee bit about what else can we produce programs on quite quickly, I suppose, in terms of the science fiction and its different mediums. And we're going to have a wee look at a couple of our favorite sort of comic books, I suppose, as well. But recently picked up a set of the books of the Ballad of Halo Jones. Um, and I used to have all the original 2000 ADs, but I gave them all to what I had left to one of my students recently to give them a good home. So I have some graphic novels and bits and pieces of 2000 AD history. Excuse me. But I recently ordered a set of the Ballad of Halo Jones, and they came in. And as much as I was actually quite disappointed by the books, um, because they're a smaller format and they've been colorized the way Americans colorize comics, to the point where a colorist has been added to the writing credits, if you like, which is not a thing that happens really here in British comics. Your artist tends to color his own work. So the comic books, the editions that I got, I wasn't particularly over the moon with them, and they're much smaller than when I've read them in the original comics. And of course, they're black and white. Um, so I was a wee bit disappointed with that this is how they've been touched up and presented to a new audience. But at the same time, the story was just so good to read it again. I didn't really care, and I quite enjoyed owning the books. But I'm hoping to do a wee episode on that. I'm just thinking about producing stuff on some comic books, some films. I said we've got the radio going, and we've got our books going. And I suppose it's about trying to find other all different considerations of the medium of science fiction or the different mediums of science fiction and what we can bring to you. So again, I don't know if any of you know much of Jean-Luc Godard or Francois Truffaut. You'll find Francois Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind acting, won't you? Um, but they're excellent films, and a great wee example of, I suppose, the French new wave of cinema that really inspired a lot of science fiction writers out there, and in particular, if you know about the stylizations, I suppose, of the new wave, when we understand that, Lemmy Caution is the kind of like a film noir science fiction detective. That they just went around filming this stuff and tweaked it, etc. There's no need for big expensive science fiction model sets, this kind of thing, so they're very, very interesting. Brad saying I'm getting my copy of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac back tomorrow. We talked about that before, didn't we? Who's that one by again, Brad? Can you remind me? Is that one of our Northern Irish comic book guys? Homicidal. Oh, that's Johan Vasquez. Ah, That looks quite good, I have to say. I haven't read too many modern comic books recently, you know. That movie Fahrenheit 451 uses a lot of the footage twice. Oh my goodness, it's been a wee while. That's why I'm looking forward to refreshing it. I think, yeah, there's wee stock shots in it and stuff like that. Fahrenheit 451, I think it was filmed around one of these kind of new European towns, and it had its own monorail and stuff. So the only bit of it that's a bit crap looking, to be honest, is the bit where the cops are meant to be on the rocket packs. That's just a bit, you know. But again, I'm brought up with kind of things like Blue Peter make a space station out of toilet rolls and this kind of thing. Things like that don't bother me. And often I think it's one of the things that you get told is the main reason for John Vasquez, thank you, but for remaking science fiction is it looked a bit crap back then, or the special effects weren't great, or anything like that. But I think it's a real shame. And the simple fact is this: I suppose when we remake films, the remake that's better than the original is a rare thing, a very rare thing, and I think it's just why don't we just show more of these old films, you know, and particularly you know, a good black and white horror movie. It's the black and white. It's the nature of the black and white coloring, if you like. Even the old Sherlock Holmes films adds the atmosphere to it. It's brilliant. I don't know if anybody's seen. I know we talk about Mad Max Fury Road a wee bit, but I don't know if anybody has seen the black and chrome edition of Fury Road. And as much as there's a way that the director really wanted it to be seen, and simply put, it's this black and white version, which is available now. And I've got it myself, and the color film of Mad Max Fury Road is a beautiful thing to look at. It's a wonderful movie. But the black and chrome version of it's something else altogether. And yeah, watch it with the lights out as your popcorn. You know, the atmosphere is very, very different. You know, but yeah, I have to say I love films like this. Barbarella's not. I wouldn't call Barbarella. It's not part of the French New Wave at all. But it kind of has the European sensibilities, if you like, of some of the science fiction at the time, and it's pretty refreshing. As opposed to stuff that's you know, Attack of the Mutant Alien thing in America, or giant mutant ants are threatening our women, or Martians are threatening our women, this kind of thing. You know, these great American B movies, I suppose, that go on for quite some time. So they're a wee bit different, a wee bit fresh, and I've got a reasonable collection of science fiction films and stuff like that down the stairs. So we hope to get through a few of them. And wouldn't mind doing a wee bit of work on Buckaroo Banzai as well, just having a look at it. But yeah, and I suppose the other thing we're talking about doing is Sapphire and Steel, which we're hopefully getting to soon. So yeah, hopefully just these wee few videos, and we'll go through our A to Z, and we'll just keep pushing it with any wee science fiction topics. And the idea is to start working through that A to Z. As I said, we kind of, that was for our year ahead once we'd finished our June videos, and we got a wee bit sidetracked. So we've done A Boy and His Dog, we're hitting Bester, and then it's soon to be probably Buckaroo Banzai and the culture, you know, etc., etc. But there's so much to look at, so much to appreciate within science fiction. I think it's hard to sort of pick where you want to go. And as I said, the one thing I don't like doing is detracting from all the, as much as we say there's a really good piece of science fiction, it's something of really good quality. It's not right really to detract some other book, or some of these other books for not being as good as this or that kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Even the Green Brain is you'll find a lot of kind of, I don't know, it speaks to me of B movies and that kind of thing. I'd argue I'd enjoy a good kind of giant ants, mutant ants, the Blob, the Thing, these kind of, you know, one of these kind of films a lot more than that kind of story, I suppose. But it's all to do with its execution, I think. And I'd argue, I don't know, we're talking about Frank Herbert's books there, but after reading Dune and you picked up the Green Brain, you go, what the hell? You know, obviously this guy's spent or something like that. It's especially, you know, Dune is a very well constructed, well written book, and again, took Frank several years to write it, I suppose. Where it's not really the case with the Green Brain. I think that's one of the problems about, I suppose, mass producing your craft, or trying to keep churning stuff out is that the more you do, ultimately, I suppose, if you're doing it to speed, the quality is going to decline. But there you go. I'll go on for a wee bit, folks. But if you have any questions or comments, or want to have a chat about any science fiction that's on your radar at the minute, fire away. But yeah, as I said, we've got an awful lot to do here at the minute, and yeah, I think it's about we try to pop on with these wee live shows and have a chat. But it's a good way of I suppose pointing out and discussing a few people without having to do too much work on it. I suppose, and bringing I suppose it's just the casual love of the thing. What's on your radar at the minute? Brad says, "Did you see the Cube series? If so, what was your take on it?" I take it you mean, is that, Brad, the Cube, the film, the series of films, the Cube? I've seen one of them. I've seen the Cube actually. That's like the big. It's like a prison, isn't it? With all the rooms are shifting, and people, if you try to go up and down or etc., all the exits, they're booby trapped or some way. Some kind of shifting prison. Is that the one? It's who's in it? I think there's one of the actors from Stargate. If that is that the one you're talking about, Brad? I think. Let me see. Who am I thinking of? The Cube. Let's have a wee look. Not Stargate. Stargate Atlantis, is it? The Cube. Or is it the TV show? 1997 film. David Hewlett is who I was thinking on. I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, that looks like the one. That's the one. Yeah, I haven't seen more past the first film. I didn't. It's one of those kind of things where I thought the idea had been taken quite well. So I don't know. But yeah, I did enjoy the Cube. I remember it being quite good. I like the premise of it. It was quite a good, wee tight, claustrophobic sort of science fiction prison, if you like, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, stuff like I quite like stories like that, Brad. In particular, the idea that the science fiction prison, if you like. Not that it was something similar, but there was an old story in 2000 AD, a long time ago. It was called Harry 20 on the High Rock. All about this prison in space. I suppose it's kind of been copied a couple of times, but arguably it was a bit like Papillon, I think, or the Birdman of Alg. It had analogues in the real world, I suppose. But yeah, I did enjoy that. I thought it was quite good. Sometimes my big problem with a lot of stuff is if you go, there's a really good film, The Cube. Here's a sequel. Here's a prequel. This kind of thing. It starts to mess with it a wee bit for me, and I tend to like whenever someone's got an original film, original idea like that, I like to stop at the first film, to be honest. So I don't know if it got any better as it went along, or if it developed the story, but I really did enjoy the first film. It's a bit like I don't know if you've seen Ringu. Is it the Japanese The Ring? And I remember watching that in the dark on my own. It scared the wow, this is really scary. And Ring 2, not so much. And I know that I didn't watch the prequel, and then I know that then there's the American versions of it. And I didn't bat an eyelid at them. Just went, it's just a remake, and it's not even remotely scary. And I don't, what was the point? But it's if it's films like that, where they end up making a little series out of them. I think the first film's often detracted badly by what comes after. And if you watch the Japanese version of The Ring, I think it's called Ringu, and you were blissfully unaware of all the rest of it, it would stay in your head as one of the scariest films you'd ever seen, I think. After watching the American one and now having that in my head, wouldn't bother me, The last one of the series has a nice twist that links to the first. It depends on how it works. Yeah, and I'd say if it was on the telly, Brad, I'd watch it. It's not like, oh, I will stop myself from watching it. But I suppose myself and how I watch TV and how I watch movies has changed a bit. But I was very much a DVD shop, video shop. But before that, Stago says, I like the Nighthawk in the back. Well done for identifying it, Stago. Yes, indeed. I've got a few in the background here, I suppose, but there they are. Um, but yes, this is Uriel, and Uriel is the last of the Nighthawk specials. So she is a Black Nighthawk Special SP3 Stago. And she's lovely, isn't she? So her name is Uriel, which means far raging in Greek. And this baby here is Stefano. These are my work guitar. Well, not that I don't play professionally anymore. Ooh, but as you can see, well battered. And it's a Yamaha RBX 374, which is exceptionally good bass for an E bass. But I've got very small hands for a guitar player, so it's very very thin neck. It's full 24 frets, and these are all my Tanglewoods. So this is my old main bat, and if you know me, I suppose this one's Antigone, and this is a concert guitar. It's a concert classical. So you see, no dots. Need to know what you're doing, and that's the one I would play on stage pretty much quite a lot. If I'm not playing bass, and then this is kind of my other one. This is a folk guitar. Oh, and the other one's just my wee son's wee 3/4 practice. But this I got rid of a lot of my guitars because my hands are pretty badly damaged, to be honest with you. I figured you're a guitar player as well, Stacker. You'd have to be able to identify that. I think because most people would go, "I love your Les Paul," and of course it's a Gibson, but it's not a Les Paul at all. She's an absolute delight, But yeah, it's very easy to play. That's the thing. So I've had 12 strings and a few other things, but I've had to change. Well, I've had this one for a long time, but I've changed my bass pretty much. Kind of had to retire from professional music. So I've been a professional musician for about 10 years. So I went out on top, I suppose. So the last gig was at the Ulster Hall in Northern Ireland. So I used to open, let me see, what do we call it? Once a year, there's a big international beer festival. It's the Belfast Beer and Ale Festival. It's in, they have it in the Ulster Hall. And for a particular time every year, myself and my colleague is Lena, my singer, we opened that festival 3 years in a row. So they liked us and kept bringing us back. So yeah, my hands go to jelly on stage now, so I can play for about half an hour without too much pain or anything like that. It's a pretty niche model, that it is. I play a Fender Duosonic. I have a taste for these unpopular models. It's a thing of it. It's an interesting guitar actually. If you look into the history of the Nighthawks, it's a hell of a versatile guitar. Bottom line, if you're a rhythm player, I think it's the business. I know our guitar player Stevie, lead guitarist, he hates it. He just finds it hard to play, though he's fine on a Les Paul. But it's about half the weight of a Les Paul. And if you see this wee thing here, all right, if I can get it, there we go. So you have 5 switches between your pickups, and you've got single, double coils on a humbucker. So you've got them all. And then you pull this wee thing up. It's like changing your gears on a bike. So you've got 10 different settings of how you can run your pickups. So yeah, it's a very particular guitar, and it's mine. And they're starting to get worth a bit because they were, this one in particular was only made for 1 year. And they've done reeditions and reissues and stuff like that. So sorry we got on to guitars a wee bit there, folks. But yeah, there's Uriel, Stefano, Antigone, Persephone. There you go. That's their names. And the one I got rid of was Terpsichore. So I tend to name my guitars after women or monsters, or both, ideally, from Greek mythology. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a guitar that you'll see around quite a lot at a certain time, and it's got a lovely shape, and it's Very, very low action. Muses included, yes, indeed. There we go. But well, Antigone, you see, this is Old Faithful, so that's all about filial devotion, isn't it? That's my most faithful guitar. And they're just Stefano, the bass. It's I'm quite an aggressive bass player, but it's got a really good range on it, and again, it's got a double pickup setup that you can move quite around. But it's a 24 fret bass, so it's got full 3 octaves on it. But forceful is what Stefano means. So yeah, the guitars' names tend to reflect their personalities, but all guitars are different. I've got my Holly in here. Hello, love. Can you? Where do you see this? There's one of our star hounds. There she is. She's coming to say hello, folks. We'll start wrapping up in about 7 minutes, and it'll take us to 11 o'clock. But this is Holly Dolly, or Holly Holiday, as she's known. And of course, I'm Doc. Hello, who's that? Huh? This is the dog we found at the crossroads. Isn't that right? Hounds and sorcery and dogs and all that stuff. Excuse me. And she's got eyes, the rings of gold. And she's very, very beautiful. It's okay. Don't be worried about it, Stango. I'm sorry if we went on a guitar tangent, if you started on a different topic. Stango, it's all good here. All things science fiction-y, etc., etc. But no, it brings in all sorts of things. I suppose it is hanging on the wall behind me. It's really because we don't have a lot of space here. And I have one of these 7 guitar racks, but my classical guitar is very fat-bodied. It's full, so it takes up a bit of space down here. But it's just to keep things out of the way of the doggies. Excuse me. But arguably we could do with them all up on the walls to give us a bit more space here. Oh, gives a kiss. Oh, there's a big sausage. Oh, the bad breath is mighty. But no, it's okay, Stago. Don't be worrying about it. I'm happy to take any questions at all. It's kind of just I do a wee bit of a chat thing here every Friday. If we don't do it on a Friday, we do it on a Saturday. And it's basically an open topic thing. We were talking a bit about the state of the art tonight and just what sort of nature science fiction is, and we ended up talking about Alfred Bester and particularly just wanted to have a chat about him and Dune and the French New. We go all over the place, so don't be worried about music. Science fiction music is, this is the thing I point out. There's quite a bit of science fiction music, and so no, it's that's the thing. We can take science fiction anywhere. So I'm not at all bothered about going off topic on my guitar. I have to say I don't play it too often, but I'm trying to work on developing a wee bit of music for the station. Actually, a bit of incidental music or something. But I keep I keep playing stuff that arguably would sound not out of place I suppose on a James Horner score. I'm trying to keep doing music like him, like very bombastic kind of Star Trek 2 kind of Krull type of this kind of thing. And I don't know, because I that's the kind of music I play a bit these days. But I'll maybe give you a spin on one of the guitars next time I'm on. Give you a wee bit of a play. But yeah, I lost my heart to a Starship Trooper. And science fiction's well invested in music, I think. So don't be apologising. Absolutely no bother at all. I miss some of my old guitars, I think, but it's just that in terms of playing, the hardest one to play is the classical guitar. It's a very wide fretboard and so, but it's a most beautiful guitar, and has incredibly high action. So it's interesting. I go from ultra low action on a guitars like this to outrageously high action. I'd say that the action on my classical guitar is higher than it is on the bass. Get your thumb under it and play it all sorts of different ways, But I'm getting heavily assaulted by a pooch here, folks. Let me just catch up with your wee comments here. The thing is, I'm not a sci-fi fanatic. I try to read the most popular books in all genres. So when I started reading Dune, your channel was really impressive. Thank you, Stago. So I can't really ask too much about science fiction novels since I'm new to the genre and don't have too much time to read. That's kind of what we're here for, Stango, I suppose. Is it's about so not at all. It's science fiction. We don't have to be fanatical about it. There's stuff about it we enjoy, and it really is a multicultural. There's so much to it, I suppose. So my kind of what I'm all doing here, and we don't all absorb books, I suppose, the same way, or our stories the same way anymore. So as much as we talk about books here, we're doing we're trying to present some audiobooks on the station as well. And a lot of people would absorb science fiction that way. A lot of us like our sci-fi films or sci-fi TV. So it comes in all shapes and forms. And I've pointed out there's science fiction plays, poetry, music, all sorts. So you don't have to be a fanatic, because I'm not one either, and I'm simply someone who appreciates and has a love of the thing, if you see what I mean. Um, in that sense, that I find a lot of I consider science fiction a form of philosophy, in that there's a love of wisdom in there, if you see what I mean. And so yeah, I find it hard to find time to read myself, Stanko. It's one of my biggest problems, because I love reading so much. Brad saying when I was young, we would often listen to the War of the Worlds double LP. Wow, isn't it brilliant? To have it on LP, I've got it on cassette here somewhere. This is the Jeff Wayne musical version of the War of the Worlds, read by Richard Burton, the actor. So we should differentiate, because we talk about the other Richard Francis Burton, the other Richard Burton, quite a bit, don't we? Stanko says, "I'm here to learn, have a good time, Stanko. Hopefully, and have a bit of crack, as we say in Northern Ireland, a bit of banter, a bit of have a bit of fun with it, you know." There's Keith saying, "Hi, Keith. Hi, everyone." Why would Keith be saying hi to Keith? So no, yeah, the War of the Worlds. I've got the original Mercury radio broadcast here. I picked up long time ago, which is really worth a listen. And I think I have, yeah, I think I have them on cassette still. Because I always preferred cassettes. Took me a long time to go to CD, I have to say. I preferred cassettes and LPs. But if anybody hasn't heard that, the War of the Worlds with Jeff Wayne, I was sitting playing a bit of that on the guitar, uh, not too long back actually. There's some really good stuff on it. Some really interesting musicians from the time. Phil Lynott's on there and stuff like that. And of course, the wonderful narration by Richard Francis Burton, that no actor out there can top, it seems. I don't care who you are, but I think the rock to break all actors on, if you like, for a bit of fun, is the opening speech, is the opening monologue from War of the Worlds, because the few men even considered the possibility of life on other worlds. This speech that only Richard Burton can seemingly develop with such gravitas. Morgan Freeman's done it. Didn't come close. Awful. We've got Liam Neeson doing it now. No, I'm sorry. I have to say, in terms of the Jeff Wayne musical version of the War of the Worlds, Richard Burton's your man. He's probably one of my all time favorite voice actors. And I was saying a wee bit about him to my wife, but about the particular Welsh lilt, the Welsh English, if you like, that's so almost RP. Um, I wouldn't call it. It's so proper English, if you know what I mean. And he's just got that most amazing voice. But if you ever listen to Richard Burton doing Under Milk Wood, there's a BBC radio production of that, and it's amazing. Well, there we go. Keith said, "Hi, Keith. Hi, Keith. How are you doing, Keith?" Very well, thank you, Keith. Excellent. I still listen to Forever Autumn when I'm feeling melancholic. Yeah, yeah. There's something a wee bit powerful about that song, and it is a thing of, I suppose, isn't it, the '70s, really, isn't it? David says, talking about LPs, recently bought that June stuff of Klaus Schultz. Very good indeed as a companion to reading time. Uh, and Stank. Oh, I wonder what that is. June stuff of Klaus Schultz. Let's have a wee look. Oh, right. General giving a concert. Got Tangerine Dream. Okay, got you. Yeah. Don't know the individual, but know the music, know the bands. Yeah. Audio, very good. I've been listening to some of the, I don't know, is it trying to listen to some of I don't know, there's a noir techno kind of music on YouTube a lot that's meant to be a sort of noir look at all that kind of techno music that you would get with things like Knight Rider and Airwolf, that era, those soundtracks, that kind of thing. But going back into it, I've been kind of sneaking a wee peek at some of the oh god, prog rock stuff. And let me get something for you. Just a Ron, Rondo Veneziano. There we are. Let me see. This is the band. If anybody's ever seen this, by the way, this is they're a light orchestra. They're called Rondo Veneziano, and probably the most famous thing that they ever did, and I'm just getting the name to copy it, is La Serenisma. Just for a wee bit of science fiction, amazing stuff for you folks. This came out, I think it must have been the very late 70s, early 80s when I was a kid, and it was all over the TV where I was. And you'll see an animation with it. If you look it up on YouTube, whenever we're about to head off shortly here, but you can check it out. So the band is called, where are we? Rondo Veneziano, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the piece of music that you're going to check out is La Serenissima. And what you should see is a science fiction cartoon pop video. From the time it was the orchestra, you can still go see them in Italy, etc. But it was to do with protecting Venice at the time, which is it's a story that's come around again. And I must tell you about it because we nearly ended up going to Venice the other year. Pardon me, because of all the natural disasters, we actually had to cancel our holiday and went to Amsterdam instead, you know. But we actually tried to go to Venice twice, 2 years in a row, and simply because of the state of the place and the natural catastrophes there, and also the locals saying we really don't need you at the minute, let us try and recover. We ended up not going, you know. But if you get a chance to, if you a little bit of science fiction, it's a science fiction pop video, science fiction themed on environmentalism, etc. And it's a wonderful piece of music, and it's a fantastic little pop video, and you can check it out on YouTube. But just if anybody's not seen it, just to bring you a little bit of sci-fi music, not prog rock, by the way, but we're about to head down that road. Audiobook is the medium for us 2000s kids, says Stanko. I'm from 94, so not really millennial, but close. The thing is, we are so used to multitasking, like clean the house and listen to something interesting. Audiobooks. And Keith saying 80s TV had the best theme music. It did, Keith, and I'm such a big fan of stuff like that I've been wanting to do a program on it for ages and kind of don't know how to present it without getting hit by copyright, left, right, and center. But I in particular was thinking about, you know, introductions to kids science fiction TV shows and intro music and stuff like that, because I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. And as much as all my guitar work and stuff, the band that I used to play in, Happy Shrapnel, was very much a hard rock band, but essentially blues and rock and roll band. But we play anything in a rock and roll way, if you like. But I've found myself trying to be a bit more orchestral minded these days in how I play a guitar. But it's because I'm really just mucking about on it for myself and trying to learn things, you know. But audiobooks are a favorite of mine, Stanko, and I've been listening to them since I was a kid. And up there you can see, you know, the Lord of the Rings, the BBC audio drama by Brian Sibley is, you know, I've been listening to it for half my life. That's how I used to go to sleep and stuff like that, you know. That and Butterfly Ball, Love Is All. It would have been good if they'd finished the project. Must look into that one. Is it Friday already? It is, says Colleges and Cannibals. And Rolando Sada says, hello again, sir. Hello, Rolando. Thanks very much for joining us. Nice. Well, check out Rondo Veneziano. Absolutely brilliant. Did you enjoy the Tripods TV show and music? I like the Tripods indeed, and I think I checked out some of the books at the time. There was a couple of other things around at the time. One of the things that I love from my childhood is I'm very into my music, and I still hum these tunes all the time. But in terms of, I think, greatest introductions to TV shows, I'm not too sure. It might have a different name in America, but it's called Battle of the Planets. It's a cartoon that used to be on the BBC, and it has this big. It's so almost like a cinematic orchestra Dun 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 dun. This kind of wonderfully bombastic sort of exciting, adventurous orchestral music with big, big deep narration over it. And as a little kid watching stuff like that, I was like, what is this? Sorry about that little blast of the tune there. Just something that we used to do over here is lots of what we call de-dying things. I suppose if you don't know what a tune is, you de-dad at somebody, you de-da, don't know what else what to call it. But Battle of the Planets was aired in the US. Yeah, I think it has a few different names, but what they would do this kind of, is it Sandy Shaw presents, and Battle of the Planets. There's something about the way it's presented that gets me animated, or even today. But it's such good music, and it's absolutely a great way to introduce a quite weird cartoon to kids. Star Blazers. Tripod. What was there was another one? I don't remember the theme song. I always thought the introduction to Buck Rogers in the 25th century is also one of the finest introductions to a TV show ever. And not only that, absolutely, I've got 3 or 4 different versions of the theme music um, to Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and there's a particular version where whatever it is that the bass player is coming out a lot clearer, and you can hear he's away like a maniac. He's super fast, super funky, and it's lots of kind of it really tearing off. So I get a lot of enjoyment out of stuff like that. The shit was oh, hang on, I'm backing up a wee bit. Fun stuff, I agree. Star Blazers, don't remember anime, and it was also recut and called G Force. Yeah, G Force, 5 young people. Yeah, Battle of the Planets. And the ship was the World War II Japanese ship, the Yamamoto. Battleship Yamamoto is a different one. The ship in Battle of the Planets is the Phoenix, isn't it? And it transmutes. It becomes a big fiery bird. If you see lots of wee bird, the characters are all bird. The bad guy in Battle of the Planets, as I always recall, and I remember just thinking that it was quite weird at the time, is that if I remember correctly, he's either Zoltar or Zoltan, so evil Zoltar, and he kind of has a wee big. He has a certain look to him, and essentially he's kind of running a thigh-high boot with a mini skirt thing. Sometimes he's male, and sometimes he's female, as I seem to recall. And sometimes I don't know. There was something about him that at the time you're going, this is a bit strange. It's clearly what you would call a transgendered character now. But we must be going back to the 70s, I think, or very early 80s. Yeah, wonderful TV show. Buck Rogers' theme is one of the greats, absolutely. And what a dun, 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 the way, how to sell your show and how to launch it. Absolutely fantastic. And I'd argue, guys, that what I would love to do for the station, I'd love to do a kind of opening set. If I really wanted to really put some time and effort into the station and I've got to get around to doing this. I suppose I have to create a sort of title sequence and make it look a bit better than just a photograph being zoomed in or out of, if you see what I mean, just to get with the times. But I would love to recreate my own version of the Buck Rogers titles. And I know South Park has done a fantastic job of it for Go God Go, which I absolutely loved, by the way. But I couldn't agree more, Keith. The Buck Rogers theme is one of the greats. There's Evil Noodles has arrived. This is the Empress of the Universe. Don't be sitting on my hat, love. There we go. Put my hat on. There we are. Get it out there. Ulysses 31, the A-Team, Magnum PI, Airwolf. Ulysses 31, yes. All of these shows had great music, guys. When Zoltan was female, was his sister. It wasn't just me. Zoltan, is that it? Science fiction, The Hooded Claw. I was trying to think what else. Even actually, the original He-Man TV show had a really good. Again, the titles and the music, and it's something I miss. I think. Kids shows used to. Kids. The level of excitement that you would get in something like that. And that, as I said, it's who's going to hire a whole orchestra these days to do theme music for some kid's show or something like that, you know? And it really just gave them a big sense of scale, you know. And I think that was as far as I know, that was Sandy Shaw kind of trying to take a Japanese TV show, bring it over to America, repackage it a bit, and how should we sell this to America? But it was a great job, I have to say. And all of these shows have their very what else could we add in there? Not all Airwolf, A Team, these kind of things. Blue Thunder, Street Hawk. They're not all the best, but some of them are really really good. So there we go. A wee bit of fun and frolics with science fiction music. Yeah, we should we do a wee episode and have a wee chat about some of these things because goodness, there's other ones as well. Some of the anime ones are brilliant. But I particularly, in terms of music, I love the music from Trigon, for example. I think the intro to Trigon's particularly good. There we go. Well, listen, folks, I'll tell you what. It's got a wee bit late, but I have a dog in here who's looking at me in the wrong way. And so it was nice to pop on, have a wee bit of light-hearted chat tonight, especially because the June book club episodes, they're ending up being about 3.5 hours long each. Oh, goodness gracious. And the amount of scribbling that I'm doing, I've created this big notebook. There you go. There's where I'm up to at the minute. I'm about to start chapter 3 on Sunday. And I'm tearing through this, just annotating and scribbling and all sorts with the June series. And it's a level of detail I've not gone into, I suppose, before. And I think I was saying, just the way I'm looking at June now is I'm, as much as you can read it different ways, the way I'm looking at it is I'm looking at it as I'm testing the writer's writing skills, if you see what I mean. I'm looking at it from a point of view of his craft, you know. So Rolando says, what Doctor Who theme is your favorite? Of the many ones over the years, Rolando, that's a pretty good question. I've got a few. It's going to be. To me, it's all how do they do the da 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 that bit. Your Doctor Who theme falls apart when how well you can rock that up. So I thought some of the themes that moved away from it over the years, the later ones are kind of a bit more synthy and orchestral, if you like. But I think it's probably the one around. It's around the time of Tom Baker, and it's the one with, I'd argue, the heaviest kind of break there, if you like. But what is it? There's a Pink Floyd tune that's very like the Doctor Who theme, and I would argue that possibly it's maybe my favorite Doctor Who. I think it's on Metal, isn't it? Possibly, if you know the tune I'm thinking on. But yeah, Tom Baker would be my favorite Doctor. But the theme tune that I'm thinking, the particular version of the tune that I'm thinking on, is probably either between, it's around him or Peter Davidson just after that. But there you go. Here in Sydney, but I'll tell you what though, of all of that, there's a lot of tunes from that era. If you like the TV, the British radiophonic, the radiophonic people at the BBC and stuff like that. But in particular, there's the music that I really love is stuff like there's a tune called Blarney Stoned, which is the theme music to the Dave Allen show. And in particular, I love the kind of big, super funky orchestral stuff to things like Space 1999 and the really dun, 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 all of those, the really kind of funky, super bombastic ones from the. I'm trying to think of what other ones there, but the theme from UFO, if you know that's one of my favorites. I suppose it's that kind of 70s funk, if you know what I mean. Oh dear. Here in Sydney, I knew several musicians who had the name Zoltan, who tried for a couple of years to get them to form a band called the Zoltans of Swing. Oh dear. Zoltan, there's a film, Zoltan Hound of, is it Zoltan? Zoltan Hound of Dracula. It's one of them quite not too bad, fun, enjoyable Hammer horrors, I think. Chapter 3, I've just read it down to remember. Yeah, well, I'll be hitting chapter 3 on Sunday. you know. Oh, for goodness sake, Brad! Thank you very much, Australian. Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much, my friend. Don't tell me don't tell me we are talking science fiction music and nobody has yet mentioned the Blue Oyster Cult. Gets played quite regularly in this house, I have to say. Um, Partly YouTube's fault. I think it keeps bringing me music that I quite enjoy, and Silver Machine and things like that. But yeah, don't fear the Reaper, colleges and camels. There's yeah, we must do an in-depth look into science fiction music. I think there's quite a fair bit in there over the years. I love all of it. I think some of it's really bad and really cheesy. From the space disco bands of the '70s and things like as it, the one I was like is Sarah Brightman. I lost my heart. Is it who's that? Is it Hot Chocolate or Hot Gossip or something? I lost my heart to a Starship Trooper. That's so bad, but I love it. You've got to love the cheesy and the glitzy, I suppose, in science fiction. A lot of it is camp, and a lot of it's a bit daft, but it's great fun. I suppose one of the great places where that all meets, if you like, the classic science fiction, the cinematic experience, the rock and roll soundtrack to go with it, the all over super kitsch, if you like. It's got to be Flash Gordon. With the Queen soundtrack. What a great film! Just so entertaining, a bit naff in some ways, but absolutely hilarious. And the music that goes with it. I love the Flash Gordon soundtrack. It's such fun. I always think that Queen must have had an enormous amount of fun doing that soundtrack. But in particular, things like the battle theme, just really good rock and roll. The Pixie song "Where's My Mind" is getting a real resurgence here recently. Mm. Okay, it's a pretty regular one over here on the busking circuit, Brad. It's yeah, not a fun song to play. I think not a bad song to listen to, I suppose, but not much fun to play. I have to say. Maximum Overdrive, all AC/DC. Is that the case? It's been a long time since I've seen Maximum Overdrive, but as the entire soundtrack AC/DC, that would be excellent. I'm trying to think. I suppose Queen did all the music for Highlander, but I'm trying to think of what particular science fiction soundtracks might stand out. But I think some of the science fiction movies in themselves have taken me to places learning introduced me to science fiction music as well. I think the first time I seen 2001, there's a lot of music in that really kind of got into. I quite like my classical music as well. Mm. But we'll have to have a wee bit of a think about it, folks. And as I said, we do the Science Fiction Friday. I pop in here and have a chat, see if there's anything on my mind. Have a wee natter about how we're going with the station. Get any ideas from some people out there. See what yous are interested in, what yous are doing, what yous are reading, what yous are listening to, and what you're remembering. I suppose it's all good fun. But yeah, we'll have to do a few wee things. As I said, and sometimes we're considering trying to get a wee bit of theme music rewritten for the station and stuff like that. But I've been playing stuff to get my wife to have a wee listen, and she's I don't know it's the context of it isn't sounding right, and I kept trying to kind of write a piece of guitar music or something and build it up in layers with a bass and a few things that would sound a bit like a James Horn, a piece by James Horner. And one of his more kind of tinkly sort of science fiction things. But want to try to get something that sounded a bit science fictiony. And such are the joys of running a YouTube channel that if you go near anybody else's music, even if it's so appropriate, it's going to cost you, and it's not really honest either. So try and write a wee bit, I suppose. Well, listen, folks, my throat is going. I can feel it. And I've got an awful lot of talking to do on Sunday night. So I'm going to thank you all very much for joining me. Just me talking a bit of nonsense and about anything to do with science fiction and all things. And I'm happy to always, as I said, open up the conversation. You'll get philosophy and history and the classical world and mythology and music and all sorts from me. And I think the one thing I like to point out about science fiction is it's an umbrella genre, if you like. It falls into every medium that I can think of, and all other forms of literature fall underneath its wings, if you like. It's very interesting for that one reason alone. But listen, I have gone totally froggy, folks, and I will have to probably do a good 3.5 hours of this on Sunday. So I hope you can all join me for chapter 3 of the book club. I hope it's going all right. By the way, as I said, it's really me doing a lot of talking and annotating. But we've had a few people jump in with some ideas, and I'm scribbling them down in my book as we go, and they're good ideas so far. So it's everybody's got their eye, if you know what I mean, and we all see something that every other person doesn't. So I'm really enjoying the book club, and I hope everybody's getting something out of it. And I said, really just approaching it with an eye for the detail. I think that's uh, the interesting way of looking at it. I suppose without me not having any particular agenda, I've not got a piece of work to get done out of this at the same time. So I can enjoy it and really go into a level of detail that sometimes would be too much if you're doing it on a particular piece of work. So we'll hit chapter 3. It doesn't look to be. I think they're all about the same length, or maybe a slightly shorter. But we're getting at the minute we're averaging about a 3.5 hour video for each of these book club things. So we'll hopefully, I don't know, get on okay with it and work our way through June, and then see how we're going to approach June Messiah. So listen, folks, it's just coming up to 11:30. So I hope you're all safe and keeping well, no matter where you are. Thank you so much for the banter tonight and the wee chat. And as I said, if anybody, my real sort of job is our next video, just to leave it with tonight, our next video, proper video, that we'll be doing will be on this book, The Stars My Destination and Tiger, published in 1956 by Alfred Bester, and really just wanted to have a wee chat about, just having finished it, how important a book it is and how influential it was. So if it's not on your radar, and you don't read too much science fiction, but you want something that's really, really good, and I'm sure you'll find it on an audiobook somewhere. And if not, maybe, as I said, it's quite interesting that he left his entire literary estate to his barman, didn't he? But I highly recommend it. It's something else altogether. A real powerhouse of a book. And just having finished it, just a real eye opener in terms of what I can see its influence. So if hopefully it'll take some of you to read a bit of Alfred Bester. But if you're going to start with them, read The Stars My Destination or Tiger, folks. And as I said, hopefully we'll have a video up on that in about a week's time. So in the meantime, I'll say happy trails. Good night to you all. Hope you're all looking after each other. Take care no matter where you are. And we'll see you on Sunday at 9 p.m. GMT if you can join me. And in the meantime, thanks very much for joining us. All the best, folks. Good night. Do, do, do.